Hey everyone, Margarita here. I want to talk a little bit in this video about how all of the people involved in the ongoing crimes against me perceive me to be on the lowest level in society, and how I just wouldn't be missed if they were to murder me and completely wipe me off the face of the planet. So there is numerous people who were attempting numerous angles in my life along the way in the past 8 years since I've been gathering all of the evidence and all the people who've been participating in the ongoing crimes against me with my deranged mother. And I was able to gather the evidence by talking to all these different individuals because of the manner in which they were all inserting themselves into my life. Some of these people were inserting themselves in my life at work individually. Some of them were part of the large group that was following me back and forth between Michigan and Ohio. Some of them were completely separate because now at this point she's brought in, the group she runs with in Michigan has brought in many individuals to insert themselves into my life. All of these people involved, you can tell how they perceived me because of the information, the people who did try to insert themselves into my life, the way they talked to me, the way they perceived me to be in life, the level they perceived me to be on, what they perceived that I have going on in life, none of which was reality. So each person continued to tell on themselves just by conversing with me. Now, some of these people I talked to on more than one occasion at my work. Some of them it was just once. And for a good portion of this, I was completely incapacitated and very sick, and I wasn't able to do anything other than get to work very minimally, 1 or 2 4 or 5 hour shifts per week, and then treatment and back for some years. And I wasn't able to do anything but that. So these people were very ignorant to what I have going on in reality and did not realize how sick and injured I was, and that it wasn't possible for me to go somewhere if they wanted me to. Some of these people I did get that information from. And then once I crossed several thresholds and I was still under quite a bit of treatment, several per week, I then started to very minimally go out with some of these people in different places so I could further gather the information on what they were trying to carry out against me. And it was only a couple times with a few of these people, and some of these people it was not at all. But I was still able to collect the information by them inserting themselves into my life at work. And all of them had intent to either get me incarcerated, deem me mentally incompetent, or some of them had taken the bribe to completely wipe me off the face of the planet and murder me because they were told I was a mental disorder drug addict and I'm a prostitute, and the lifestyle that she portrayed me to be living. All of these people figured that I was somebody who just wouldn't be missed if I were to disappear. And because of this false narrative that was grown over the course of all these years, it appeared as if I had this risky lifestyle and all those things she was saying about me was real, when in fact none of it was real. Nobody knew who I truly was as a person. I never offered up any actual information about my full life. I've kept my life very private. I don't bring people to my house. A lot of these people assumed they were going to come to my house, some of these people, for some reason. I'm not sure why they thought this. But I've always operated the same way long before I was ever injured, and that's just how I operate. And because I'm the exact opposite, and I've been building success from the time I was a teenager, and I've always had numerous streams of income, they didn't realize any of that. They really thought that that false narrative was my actual life. So the people who took the bribes tried to insert themselves into my life, or some of them would be working numerous angles to try to carry this out to get rid of me. It doesn't matter which way, as long as I'm gotten rid of one way or another. Some of these people were offered to get paid once I'm murdered and gone. And that way it would appear as if this false narrative she already grew over the course of time was real, and that's why I ended up dead. So those people who believed that, I did know that some of those people were planning this and thought that they could carry that out against me, not comprehending who I really am. And like I said, I gathered this information from talking to a lot of these people in person. This is not some idea that I just came up with. It took me 8 years to gather all of this evidence. A lot of those years was in person because these people were physically following me around, and I had no quality of life for a long time. So, it wasn't hard to miss because I wasn't going anywhere else. That was the only place people could find me. And there was many people who would sit across the street from my house as well during this. But just by talking to them, I was able to gather that information, and they thought they were going to be able to carry this out, believing that's who I am as a person, and I just wouldn't be missed from the planet. And then just by her growing that false narrative over all that time and making hundreds of people believe that that's who I am, then nobody would be surprised that I ended up deceased, but it's actually a murder and they all were in on it so they could all access my missing stolen trust fund. Same with some of the false police reports on me. Some of those people I spoke to directly and even spoke about reality and realities of my life, and they still wrote false reports on me. Still believing whatever my deranged mother told them, the false narrative and whatever she fed them, even though my reality can be proven, and it can be proven that I never committed any of those crimes, and she actually committed those crimes. Nobody was actually investigating because all those people were involved in participating in the crimes against me. So all of those people thought they could get away with that as well because they thought I was the exact opposite of who I am as a person. And because I kept my entire life off of social media, due to the fact that all of these crimes and all this harassment has been ongoing for decades, and I've been being followed for a very long time by many different people, all paid by my deranged mother, I never engaged in social media due to that. So my entire life has been kept extremely private. So even if you were to just Google me, not much is going to come up. And then until I released these videos 18 months ago, I had no social media presence whatsoever. So any of these people looking into me, they probably found nothing if they Googled my real name, and or any name. You could Google anything. You wouldn't have found me. So that's another reason that these people probably believed that I was just on the lowest level of society. You could easily get rid of me because I had no social media presence. That further backed up that false narrative. None of those people are comprehending that my life is that way because it has to be kept extremely private because of all the ongoing crimes and harassment. And that's why I'm off of social media. And so people nowadays, a lot of people have it, and these people were all probably thinking, well, everybody has social media. That just proves she's really a mental disorder drug addict and really out of it. And, she's just off in la la land, and that's why she has no social media. Well, it's the exact opposite. So that's another reason why everybody just thought they could pull this off. And even Tony Baloney thought the same thing. He thought I was just somebody who wouldn't be missed from the face of the planet if I were to disappear, because he also believed the whole false narrative he was given about me. Even though I was correcting the false narrative and speaking the truth, he still kept jumping on the page of this whole false narrative, acting like I'm lying about everything I've said and everything in reality that's going on in my life. So you can tell that many of these people along the way, pretty much everybody I've mentioned in all of my videos and more, because there's people I haven't even talked about yet, they all believed that I was on this very low level of society. I wouldn't be missed from the face of the planet. All of these people were attempting to get rid of me one way or another. Numerous attempted murders were in play, but nobody could actually carry it out because I don't operate the way they were told. Like my deranged mother came up with this whole false narrative, grew it over time, and then told them this is the type of person I am, except for I'm not, so it didn't work. And I operate a very specific way, and none of that is how I operate, so it just didn't work. But I am aware that some of these people were offered bribery money to murder me and get rid of me, and it would just appear as if her false narrative is true. And see, she wound up dead because that's the type of person she is, and that's what they were planning, and that's what they thought they could carry out. Even if you were to Google my name, property records are public, so I'm not sure how that adds up, because you should at least be able to pull up my legal address. And so that really doesn't add up how they think this, but I do know my deranged mother was telling people this was my ex's house and he paid all the bills here and it's him who bought the house, when none of that's reality. This is everything I was doing as a single individual all along, and he was never supposed to be a part of this, and he had no ability to contribute to any of what I was doing all along. And it can all be proven because you can trace his paycheck back from the time he started working at AT&T, and you can trace it back to where there was no money to contribute to do any of what I've done. So it's all provable, and nobody looked into any of it. Everybody believed the false narrative. And I know this because Sergeant Matthew Wilczynski in Flat Rock has, threatened to falsely arrest me numerous times. And he did falsely arrest me in 2021, believing this is my ex's house when he was long moved out of here. Even though I'm telling him we have witnesses, this lady threw him out for me when Charmaine threw him out months before that. He no longer lived here. His work truck has to be where he actually lives. Nobody looked into anything when everything could have been proven, which is exactly why I got his name off of the house years ago. because I knew that all these people were lurking in the background, and he's waiting to falsely arrest me some more. And my deranged mother's attempting to make sure that I'm permanently removed from my house. And that's due to all of the jealousy and envy, which has been ongoing since I was born. And then it slowly amplified over time, and who I truly became and what I've really been doing. She got more and more jealous and envious as time went on, even though she's causing all these complete financial wipeouts and all these complete restarts and forced me from 2 other homes in the past. She was still attempting to do this, because each time I rebuilt from each escapade, I would rebuild even bigger. And so I would rebuild bigger and bigger each time. And then once I got this house, she was even more jealous and envious and worked overtime to make sure that I'd get removed from having this house. So it didn't matter how, she was also working those angles as well. Now, I have jealousy and envy outside of my deranged mother and how jealous and envious she is, and all of the people who have participated in the crimes, because many of these people just believe, since I was on the lowest level in society and wouldn't be missed off the face of the earth, they believed that they should have access to my missing stolen trust fund, jealous and envious that I was left this large sum of money, and thought I was some piece of shit walking around who wouldn't be missed. So they thought that they could get away with all these crimes, and this money should go to all of them because they perceive themselves to be better than me and or have worked harder than me, which is far from true, because I've worked harder than all of these individuals, 100% self-made, been 100% self-employed since 2012. So, all of these people have very deranged thinking. All of them have some type of undiagnosed mental disorder to be carrying out these organized crimes in the manner in which they have against me. And I do know that a lot of what these people were thinking and how they thought all this money should go to them, and they just really perceived me to be such a piece of shit, which is why they all thought they could carry out these organized crimes. Now, separate from all the jealousy and envy of all those people and my deranged mother, I have a secondary level of jealousy and envy of people who met me other ways, who know nothing about the crimes, nothing about my mother or any of these lies or delusions. And people who cross paths with me other ways become extremely jealous and envious because of who I truly am and the level I really am on in life and what I have and what I've built. And they can't figure out how I've gotten to where I'm at. And they don't know anything about my history or what I've dealt with or how hard I've had to work and rebuild and how sick I've been and how much money I had to spend to save my own life and my son's life. They don't know anything about it. So separately, I have another level of jealousy and envy coming from complete strangers who don't know anything about me because of who I actually am. And that's all reality. And my life is kept extremely private for all of these reasons. So I don't have anybody on my inner circle because I can't trust anybody. There's a handful of people that I actually trust. And I'm not even going to talk about who those people are. If you think you're that person, then if you really know me, then you would know that you're one of those people. So I shouldn't have to mention those people. But there's a very serious issue because I'm the exact opposite of who my mother's been portraying me to be. And there was so many people who took the bribe to insert themselves into my life. And several of them truly thought that they could just get away with murdering me and I wouldn't be missed. Not comprehending the level of success that I built and what I've put in and what's been going on all these years. And the reason I didn't have social media is because of all this jealousy and envy and all these people following me around, because that was going on before that even came about. And then, once I became injured, I ended up not being able to talk or have the sound of my own voice or explain myself properly or string sentences together for many years. And I stayed in such extreme chaos because my mother's 2013 escapade, where I was rebuilding from when I finally got in this house in 2017, I became completely incapacitated, unable to talk 6 months later. I never got anything situated to flow properly, and I stayed in that state for years. So coming out of it, that's where more people and agencies became involved in all the crimes against me. And that's where it became even more chaotic, to the point where even if I wanted to do social media, I still couldn't even film because it was so chaotic and there was so much harassment and so many people following me and so fast paced. And I'm still severely injured, struggling to treat. I was still treating 5 days a week for part of it, 2 days a week for another part of this. The treatment center is an hour away from my house here in Flat Rock. So, that was so chaotic that I still couldn't even film or do the social media or release the story any sooner, or even have a regular social media, which I'll probably never do. Couldn't even do it because of all that. And nobody was comprehending my reality and how hard I worked and the fact that I actually worked 2 to 3 times as hard as everybody else, the 20 years I spent working before my injury. Nobody was comprehending what I've actually built, what I've been through, what I've been doing all along, all my streams of income, that I've been building success from the time I was a teenager. And I stayed very busy all along, so there was no time for any internet stuff or any social media whatsoever. And that's a big part of how these people were fooled and believed that I just wouldn't be missed off the face of the planet because most people have some type of social media. Now, the amount of people who took this bribe, since they're always working numerous angles, maybe it wasn't just, oh, I can get rid of her by means of getting her killed and making her disappear. There was probably numerous angles that they could have attempted. They could have done things to try to get me to lock myself up in jail or prison, or deem me mentally incompetent, or get me killed. And they could have done this numerous ways. So it was usually numerous angles. Each person had numerous angles that they were attempting. And like I said, I know this because I was personally speaking to a lot of these people. So that's how I was able to figure all of this out. And nobody was with the reality of who I truly am. And that's also a part of the reason that my deranged mother ended up getting me set up to have DUI charges. And there's a lot of people who are involved in this. I haven't talked about all of them yet. But then that's where Tony Baloney entered the situation, because then he inserted himself from the attorney end of it. And then the probation officer was involved in this, because then my deranged mother was calling her and got her involved in this from the very beginning, and got her to falsify a drug test on me. So that can all be proven because I have years of drug tests due to my severe injuries that I've taken monthly from the time I've been injured to today. So all of those drug tests say the same thing over all these years. Nobody stopped to think about that. On top of the fact that one of those drug tests had just happened 2 days prior to the day she gave me this false drug test. And then didn't stop to think that maybe I was going to be ahead of the game and know what they were all up to and go get my own drug test. And I was able to prove, because within 24 hours, I went to a third-party facility and still got a whole other drug test, which proves that they set me up with a fraudulent drug test. The probation officer had access to many different cups of urine, all that which all had numerous drugs in each person's system, because everybody in that county is really on something. The majority of those people really are. So it wasn't much for her to just add a little bit of somebody else's to my cup, because the cup did leave my line of sight for over 30 seconds, I'd say. 30 seconds to a minute, it was out of my sight. That's all it was going to take to add somebody else's urine. She pulled this whole setup, and she was doing that to try to prove, see, I've been on all these drugs. So that way it proves this false narrative and this fake lifestyle she's trying to prove to everybody I've had all along, which none of was ever real. And that's part of how they were going to back this up. Oh yeah, see, she's got this history in this court system of all these drugs being in her system. That's who she is. And, who knows? Somebody could have followed me to work and tried to drug me at work as well. It wasn't really going to work out so well because of the hours and the time frames I was working, and they don't even serve alcohol half the time during the hours that I was there. So that's another issue. But they were all attempting numerous angles. They were attempting to physically take me, get rid of me, and they all just believed I wouldn't be missed off the face of the planet because they were trying to paint me to have this risky lifestyle, that I'm just this mental disorder, drug addict, prostitute, and I'm just so out of it I don't even have social media, and that's the proof to them. And no one knowing anything about my reality or how hard I've had to work or what I've had to go through, which is more than all of these people. And that's why they all felt so entitled to have this missing stolen trust fund instead of me. So that's how they thought they were going to get away with it, except for none of that's who I am, and it can all be proven. So even after I've talked to some of these people who've written the false reports, when I've talked to them on the phone, they still wrote the false reports on me. And then that's why I've done some of these videos where I can prove that they never even investigated. Even after talking to them, they still continue to write false reports on my mother's behalf. And this is how she got custody of my dad fraudulently in probate court. So then you got probate court people who stepped in and also participated in the crimes and took it even further with those false reports. So, those people all wrote false reports, even though I'm sitting here speaking the truth, living in reality. And then I made the video showing my actual reality, because I'm very busy. My life is very chaotic. It has never gotten a flow back from the time I became injured 10 years ago. I had more and more brain injuries, more and more severe injuries over the course of time. And I built this life for myself before I was ever injured, working as a very healthy individual 2 to 3 times as fast as everybody else. So when I became injured, I was still on that path, except for things had to pause, things had to be restructured, things had to change a little bit, but I knew I wouldn't be able to go backwards and work for somebody else because of how sick and injured I am permanently. And I knew if I lost everything of where I barely built to from the time I became injured, I would then lose everything, and still we wouldn't have survived our injuries because we had to self-pay for our treatments to stay alive. So I knew I couldn't lose anything further. And the amount of time and energy I put in the 20 years prior to becoming injured got myself to where I was when I did become injured. And all that chaos that I'm living in is because I built a very high level successful life for myself way before that. And I had to hold on to that in order for us to not lose our lives. So I never got daily functioning back from the initial injury or any injury after that. No daily functioning was ever put back together. And I live in so much chaos that I don't get to live a normal life. And it's due to the fact that I've built such high level of success on my own, and then having a very extreme injury and many re-injuries. And some of these re-injuries are caused by the people who participated in the crimes. So no one was comprehending reality about what I really have going on and what I've really built, what's really been going on. And, you know, that's why they continued to write those false reports on me. And then I made the videos proving the different things I have going on in reality, because nobody stopped to think about my actual reality, that maybe my actual reality can prove everything you're saying and all these things you're doing are crimes and these are lies and it's all false information and it can all be proven, because my extreme reality proves every single lie and every single false report and everything everybody thought about me. So nobody thought, you know, anything beyond what they could see, like in that moment, not looking at the 20 years I worked prior, not looking at all the other streams of income, not looking at what I've been building, how many wipeouts I took, all the crimes nonstop for decades, and I'm having to accommodate all of this, and then becoming very sick and injured and accommodating all of this, and then just juggling with no, there's no flow to life. There's no daily functioning. There never has been since the injury. I'm not even sure there ever will be, because in order to keep us alive, I have to maintain what I had from that day forward. And that's still going on today. And I've been injured for 10 years. So, you know, all of these people made a very serious mistake by, you know, not perceiving my reality anywhere close to what it is, all thinking they could get away with murder, all thinking they could get away with getting me incarcerated. Some of them even thought they were going to be able to insert themselves into my life and deem me mentally incompetent in one way or another. You know, my mom told all these people I was a gold digger, and so I'm easy to schmooze, and, you know, oh, you can marry me so easily because I'm just this gold digger, when I'm 100% self-made, self-built, and I've been single the majority of my adult life. So everybody was extremely delusional in how they thought they were going to carry out all of these crimes against me. But if you look deep enough into some of the individuals I've talked about, there can be proven that there's talks amongst them of attempted murder on me, or setups of attempted murder. So I know if their phone lines were to be taken and looked over the course of the last 6 years or so, that would be able to be proven. I do know that. So I just wanted to clear a few things up, because it seems a lot of people had the wrong idea and perceived me to be the exact opposite of who I am, and not one person thought logically about any of my reality. So yeah, like I said before, this is only going to end one way, with arrests. Now that I'm able to actually make these videos and expose everybody for what they've been doing, it just took me a very long time. I will be back with more. Thanks. Bye.